Thank you very much, and thank you for your invitation. The stakes are getting higher and higher. We are just over 103 people in attendance. So I'm really glad that this subject has received so much attention. So let me share some ideas on which my colleagues later drill down deeper in probably helping you to be more efficient in the very important work you do back at home, back in your countries, in assisting governments and different institutions to achieve success with their digital transformation. I have just shared my presentation. I hope you are able to see it.
Yes,
Perfect. Yeah, not so often I start with a slide that talks about failure. It's much more pleasure to talk about success, but to achieve success, we must fail several times. And then that success is even sweeter and more solid and more sustainable. And we have had in our history, which is quite rich, as you have already mentioned, having started as a spin-off of a Norwegian registry bureau over 30 years ago, we have grown our experience in the different areas, but primarily focusing about information technology and consultancy on how to best apply that technology to the benefit of countries and to the benefit of societies. We're working with registries, we're working with tax institutions, we're working with ICT governance commissions and the different institutions that govern this digital transformation. And we also work with private sector, with financial institutions, with retailers, postal offices, and so on. As I said, we have started in Norway, but now we can be found in Lithuania and several other places across the world. But most importantly, we were so blessed by having worked in over 60 countries. And you can see on this map, we've been all over the place. Obviously, at home in Europe, we have done quite a number of projects, but we are so glad that we had the opportunity to work in Africa, in the Caribbean, in Southeast Asia, and other places. And even more importantly, most of these projects have been supported and funded by institutions like African Development Bank, the World Bank, the Inter-Americas Development Bank, UNDP, and others. We're so glad that these development partner institutions see the importance of these projects, which are typically helping the countries to develop infrastructure, digital infrastructure of different countries. In our work, we look at the digital transformation. We adopt an approach that was pioneered and is now embraced by the World Bank, but I know that other development partner institutions are developing the same approach of looking in different layers. It always starts at the bottom with having the data, having the ability to collect the data, to process that data, to store the historic data. This is in fact where we started with the registries. You go one level up, it's about how you make sure you can use that data. You can provide access to this data to those who need to have access, but you also make sure that the data stays secure and invisible to those who should not see it. This is where the digital ID comes, this is where the data exchange standards comes, and so on and so on. Then it's critically important to have services built on that data and on that digital infrastructure so that they can be delivered to citizens and businesses within one country, but also internationally. And even more so, it's so important that you continue innovating and that you have the support to ensure that innovation within your country. We are active across all these layers, especially on this last one. We are very keen on making sure the knowledge is transferred to ensure a long-term sustainability of these projects. Because we know that it's so important that we keep in mind the rationale. Why do we do digitization? I just want to use a couple of references by, OECD, by research done by Deloitte, European Commission, and so on. Digital transformation is about building trust between citizens and national and local institutions by providing efficient services, by making sure that your citizens and your businesses stay competitive and are able to contribute to the economic development of the country. We're talking about predictive government, especially now in the age of AI. I think this is one of the best applications to enable governments to anticipate citizens' needs and provide them with services and data in advance, or at least immediately. And of course, very importantly, it's also about saving time, but also saving money. This is, you see some numbers which are, unfortunately, for the European market. We don't have these numbers for Africa. But both citizens, but more importantly, businesses can save a lot if they have access to digital services, and if those digital services are also compatible one country to another country. And yet, we always start with very high hopes, but as the World Bank research suggests, only 20% of digital transformation projects result in success. This is an amazing figure. When I saw that, I thought this must be a mistake. But then when you think about it, it's probably true if you look in the longer perspective, which projects really have proven successful and which projects were just there, done as a check. So it's very important that you have several things in place in order for projects not to fail. So why they fail? Typically, the project's failure seldom has to do anything with technology. Technology, in fact, is an easy bit, but it's about the gaps in people, processes, and governance. All these pieces must fit together, must work towards the same goal to make the entire project, the entire development successful. Very often, projects lack political support and unified strategy. How many times have you seen in your work one ministry going one way and another ministry going their own way? But at the end of the day, if you put yourself in the citizen's shoes, only the services that are coherent across the entire system are useful and really bring value. Too often, we forget the good stuff that was done in the past and we ignore the legacy IT. We always go after modern things and we're duplicating solutions. Instead, we should be building on top. Instead, we should be moving forward and reusing what already exists. And yet also, when doing a project, it's very important to make sure you complete that project, that specific project successfully. We have seen so many times the shifting of requirements, the evolution of requirements, which are very understandable, but it's very difficult to hit precisely to hit precisely on the moving target. So having the goal and sticking to that goal is extremely important. So when you think about it, it's so much more than technology. You have to make sure that the legal framework is in place to support those digital projects, to enable those digital projects. It's also very important to have organizations in place that are capable, that have the necessary competences to not only do the digital part, but to also make sure the project is integrated into the whole fabric of e-government to become part of the digital transformation. Also, the procedures in organizations must keep pace of change, because digitizing inefficient processes will make them run faster, but this will not be the transformation. So the leaders of the organization must understand and must be capable to change and evolve the procedures, the way the organization functions. And only then, I think, comes the technology. It's also very important how we define success. Is success only meeting the budget and timeline? And I understand from the banker's perspective, sometimes these are very tangible goals. These are the KPIs you have to work towards. But maybe it's about impact that these projects make on the country and society. And it takes time for these impacts to become visible, to yield certain results. And one of the last points I want to make before I hand over to my colleagues to drill into certain detail level is you always have to think about the long impact. To be honest, we have seen too many times projects that have such a great potential for success, but projects that fail just in a few years. Just to give you a parallel, which probably is sort of easier as an illustration, I sometimes joke saying that, the building starts collapsing the moment you finish building it. You have always do maintenance. You have to do proper job, keeping it up so that these decaying parts are always fixed and they're always functional. This is critically important in digital transformation projects, and very often one of the things that are usually overlooked and forgotten because of the nature of projects that are funded by the different institutions. The funding is provided for the project itself, but not for the continuation, not for the maintenance and support, which should always cover not only the technical system upkeep, which is very important because, like I said, it starts falling apart the moment you start using it, and it constantly needs fixing. That's the reality of life. But also make sure that the future improvements and adaptations are also secure, that each individual part of the whole system can move forward together with the rest of the system and not drag it behind. And obviously, especially these days, the cybersecurity aspects, they are extremely important. And every single day, there are new threats that need to be looked at, and that the systems need to be enabled to withstand them. So just to finish, always plan for the long-term impact. It's not just the project delivering. A quick success can sometimes turn quite sour unless that continuity is secured. continuity and future adaptability from the very start of the project, even during the project, but when the project is finished, it needs to constantly evolve. Always combine technology with ongoing consultancy. The way projects are planned and the way projects are implemented, usually that happens at different time. At the moment when it was planned and when you start the implementation, conditions have changed. So you have to provide for certain flexibility to see what new discoveries are made, what new analysis tells you how to, fix the course of that project. That adaptability must be there. Do not leave it just to technicians. Involve subject matter experts on the ongoing basis. And always make sure that, if we talk about real transformation, it must be measurable. It must secure lasting change for governments and for citizens. Now, I know I stayed a bit high level without going into detail, but to me, these are the key aspects that make a project a success or a failure. Once you have these bits secured, you are looking at a successful long-term digital transformation. Thank you very much.